Hi, this is Lori from CustomizedWalls.com and one of the moderators for the interior design community on Google+. And we have a fantastic show for you today because we're going to talk about Google SketchUp, or not Google SketchUp, sorry. What used to be Google SketchUp. For some reason, Eric, every single time I think of SketchUp, I think Google still. I don't know why.
That's okay.
But you're the king of SketchUp in my eyes and many others in the kitchen design industry, and you have a lot of great tips and tricks and some tutorials that hopefully you can bring us through. And you also are going to show us some great technology that will be for the future of design that I think designers will be really interested in. But first, introduce yourself. Tell us all about you.
My name is Eric Schimelpfenig. I'm a lot of things. I think today I'm going to be a kitchen designer and SketchUp teacher. That's what I'll be doing today. Some other times and days I do the social media for Clever Storage. As we were just talking about, I spend a lot of time on airplanes, and I teach classes, and yeah, every day is a little bit different. But today, kitchen designer, SketchUp teacher. That's what I'll do.
Fantastic.
All right, so I'm going to actually switch my screen over to SketchUp so you guys can see it. Hey, Lori, do we have Q&A or questions and answers on here?
I have comments tracker, so I'll pull in from the audience as time goes on, and people can absolutely add your questions to the, into the stream so that we can ask them live if you have any.
So I'm not looking at the thing, so I'll leave it up to you to shout them out. What do you want me to build? You want me to make you a room, Lori?
Yeah, make us a room.
What kind of room do you want?
Well, we obviously want a kitchen.
Okay. All right. So we'll do SketchUp crash course, and we'll make like a really simple kitchen. So if you haven't used SketchUp before, it is different than a lot of other modeling programs in that it's all 3D and it's all perspective. So when you're working on a model, instead of being in 2 dimensions, it's actually all in 3 dimensions like this. And that's the way you look at the model, and that's the way that you draw the model, which makes it a lot of fun. So we'll switch back over to our blank one here. So imagine you've just come back from a job site and you've got measurements scrawled on a crumpled piece of paper or a napkin, and you need to get that into the computer so you can start drawing something. Let's do a little simple L-shaped kitchen.
Sure.
So let's say my first wall is 10 feet, so I'll just make a 10-foot line, it's going to get more exciting pretty quickly, so stay with me. And let's say the other wall is 14 feet, and we'll get to the part where it gets 3D. So we'll make that wall about 4 inches thick. And once you have a group of lines that are all connected, like this one, you get a face in SketchUp. And you get to use the famous SketchUp push-pull tool, which is what takes a face and it makes it into 3D like that. So you can see we've drawn 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines, and we're already into something 3D. So let's say we've got, this is a fancy house, Lori, so we're going to say it's got 9-foot ceilings. So now we've got our 3D wall here with 9-foot ceilings, and I'm going to put it into a group, and we'll put a floor in here because I think later on we're going to put some tile or something else into here to kind of spruce it up. But for right now, we'll just make a white floor. And okay, so most rooms have doors or windows. I'm assuming that, let's say this is going to be your wall looking out into your backyard, Lori, and we're gonna want a window there.
Sure.
So let's put something in. Let me just fix my floor a little bit. There we go. All right. So what's really cool about SketchUp is you can be as accurate or as inaccurate as you want. So if you're kind of doing something artistic and just for fun, you can get in there like a paint program and just draw whatever you want. For everything that I teach and do, I typically have to be very accurate. So if I was to put a window in this wall, I'm obviously going to want it in the correct spot where it exists in real life. And what I see a lot of people do is they'll jump in, they'll get a wall, which is really easy to do, and then they want to put a hole in it to represent their window. So they'll do something like this, and they'll put a hole in, which you can kind of see through here. Let me make this a little easier to see here. So okay, so you can kind of see through it like that. And the problem is when people first reach for this tool, which is the rectangle tool, they try to put a window in, and they figure out that you can't place the hole for your window accurately. you can type in the size, but it's very hard to get it in the right spot. So I'm going to undo back here, and I'm going to show you how to get it in the right spot. So imagine you're on the job site, and you needed to map out where this wall was. You'd probably use a tape measure and a pencil and some blue tape maybe to map out where it is. And you can do pretty much the same thing in SketchUp. So it's got this tool here called the tape measure tool. And that works just like a tape measure. You can measure point to point. So if I wanted to check to see how high this wall is, it's telling us it's 9 feet. But what it also does is it'll mark down these dotted lines for you. So let's say I knew that this window was 48 inches off of this wall. I can use the tape measure to do that. And if I knew that the window was 36 inches in width, I could put that line in. If I know it's 42 inches off the floor, I can put that line in. And let's say it's 40 inches high, I can put that line in. So what you can see happened here is I used information that I got from the job site or a cool measuring app or whatever, and I now have mapped out exactly where this window is going to be. So now I can take my rectangle tool, and it just snaps here, and I can very easily punch that hole in the wall, just like that. So let's say Lori is fancy, and she doesn't like the window that she currently has, and she wants a bigger window. Well, let's say she wants it 2 feet larger. I can go like this and make it 24 inches. Whoops, 24 inches larger, and we can get a larger window. Since this is probably going to be a remodel anyway. So, all right. So at this point, you should probably save your model, which I'm going to do right now. Call that Lori. And okay, so I'm going to delete those guides, and I'm going to move on here. So now, one of the major things that we're going to need to do is get some appliances and some cabinets in here, because those are going to be big obstacles and important things to figure out. So what I like to do is go into SketchUp and find my list of collections. There's a lot of different appliance manufacturers that are on here, and one that I particularly like is Jenn-Air. They've got really good models. So let's find you a refrigerator. Let's see, Jenn-Air range. Let's try that. I wonder if they moved these. All right, let's go more expensive, Sub-Zero. You've got expensive taste, right, Lori?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Sub-Zero. Let's get a 42 side by side. Let's see what this looks like. Cool. So this is pretty cool. So a lot of people think CAD programs, you need to draw everything from scratch. Well, SketchUp has a lot of this stuff built in. So I've got a properly sized photorealistic refrigerator. It's going to be kind of a tight kitchen, but we'll work through it. So let's find a dishwasher. And I won't bore y'all. We'll get just a couple appliances in here. 24-inch dishwasher. We'll try that. Perfect. Okay, so we've got a couple appliances. We could put a stove and everything else in here, but we'll do that. We're doing a quick hangout. I'm not going to keep you guys here for 2 hours. Okay, so imagine that we have a whole suite of appliances in here. Everything's all set. So now you could draw your cabinets from scratch, but it just so happens that there's a fancy pants little plugin.
I heard about this plugin.
Yeah, I made it. Me and some other guys made it, and you can get it on my website, which I should probably put on the. We can do like show notes, right?
Yeah.
Here, I'll do it. I'm changing my lower third. See if that took. Boom, boom. It's on this website on my lower third. I'm making Lori look at herself. Okay. So once you get this plugin, I'll turn off some of my extra toolbars here, but you're going to get this little toolbar in here that has these buttons on it, and if you push the cabinet button, it will bring up this window. And this is kind of like the 3D Warehouse where I downloaded these appliances, but this is a plugin that I made that has a lot more stuff in it. They're very, very detailed cabinets. So let's go in here and find a corner base. So we'll start in the corner, and let's do an angle for you. So once you hit insert in the model, it'll bring this cabinet in, and you can spin it around like this, and we'll get it into the wall since it's a corner. So when you bring these things in, they're all, you know, pre-made cabinets, but they've got some extra features in them, and I'll show you once I set this one in place here. So we'll get this back part here, we'll get it into the wall so it's nice and plumb and square into the wall. So that cabinet looks fine, but let's say we need to make some adjustments to it. If you right-click on it and go to Dynamic Components and click on Options, it's going to bring up this window. And by the way, I'm going through this really fast. All the tutorial videos for this and just general modeling and SketchUp are all on my website too. This is just kind of a quick crash course because, you know, we don't have, again, 2 to 4 hours to go through all this stuff. So if you want to know how to pop open these menus and things like that, you can see it all on my site. But one of the very cool things about these cabinets is they come in pre-built, so it saves you a bunch of time. But then if you want to resize them, not that SketchUp is particularly slow to model in, but it's way easier to be able to just type in a new dimension and have SketchUp do the work for you instead of having to redraw all those things. So like this one here, it recalculated the angle automatically for you, which is a whole lot of trigonometry and really boring math that I spent a long time figuring out, so you don't have to. So that's
awesome.
That's our. Yeah, I got to admit, figuring out how to calculate the distance across of the front of a cabinet with an angle, I definitely regretted sleeping through part of algebra in high school.
Well, I can tell you all, too, by the way, that Eric is probably the #1 go-to guy in the industry for kitchen design to teach SketchUp, and this plugin that he has is probably one of the most popular. It does save tons of time, great reviews across the board. But what I love about it, Eric, is that you really took the time to spend all this time making it easier for people because it was pain for you. It was already a pain point that you would have to recreate these things over and over. So just sort of out of doing it, built the collection that people can use, and it just saves so much time.
Yeah, and I did this because we had about 4 designers working in our showroom, and it was just taking us so much time because we all love SketchUp and we wanted to keep using it, but to draw every cabinet from scratch, it was just taking too much time. So I decided to spend way too much time on each one of these things, building them, making them all, so we could just do this. Because I mean, at the end of the day, especially the last showroom I worked in, we did nice stuff, but it wasn't like the first place I worked where we were doing, $200,000 kitchens. We would do a $5,000 kitchen or a $10,000 kitchen, which sounds expensive, but you don't get weeks and weeks and weeks to spend on a CAD program. You have to be able to put it out, really quickly and efficiently.
Right.
And having something like this makes it so you can do, not necessarily worse kitchens, but less expensive kitchens.
Right. And for a designer who is trying to come up with some of these plans on their own, this helps them save time because, I mean, designers, that don't have someone that, can do it for them might need to do this themselves.
Yeah, and a lot of times, you can kind of see, I'm getting a little bit anal with the details here, but you can do a lot of this stuff. You can throw a kitchen together and then just start playing around with it in front of a customer, which is, I would do that a fair amount. It kind of depends on the customer because you can sort of go down the rabbit hole of, changing things over and over again all day. But if you do need to make some tweaks to your design right on site, you can do it. You can do it pretty easily right in here.
That's impressive too to a client, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean that. It kind of honestly, like inside baseball here. It depended on the client. If it was someone that I knew wasn't going to take up my entire day, I would sit and work on a design in front of them. If it was somebody that it's like, oh my God, this is going to end up taking me the entire afternoon, you would do more of a show and tell, which you can do really, really easy in SketchUp. You can walk them through in 3D and set preset views and email pictures out. You can do all kinds of fun stuff like that.
Cool.
So, all right. So I'm gonna do some little nerdy details. Then we're not gonna finish this whole kitchen, but we'll do some nerdy details. Then we'll do some fun stuff, and I might even be able to get some wallpaper in here.
So
So one
just
thing.
just to overview for people, you can actually change a lot of the components. You can change, right, the doors. Like if you didn't like those doors, you can change those out with your plugin, right?
Yeah, yeah. So check this out. What this whole plugin is built around a thing called dynamic components, and those are just smart components. They know what they are. So this sink base knows it's a sink base, and if I give it a different size, it knows to change its size. And for you kitchen designers out there, you can change the overlay. I think these are the only cabinets in SketchUp that it can actually do this. So they come in as standard as half-inch overlay, but we can change them to full, to inset. For us New Englanders, we can do beaded inset. And you can do that all with just a couple clicks on each of these, and so that's pretty cool that you can do all of that. You can have beaded inset on one end of the spectrum and European frameless on the other, and it's all built into one cabinet. But one of the really cool things you can do, I'm just going to switch this back to full overlay here, is you can switch doors. So SketchUp has a limitation in it. When you're building cabinets like these, where you can't have more than about 3 doors on every cabinet. And if you have more, then it's just too much data across the whole kitchen for SketchUp to hold. So one of the things that's special about this plugin is that we can swap your doors, and it's all cloud-based instead of holding all the data in SketchUp, which means we can have an unlimited set of doors. So Lori's fancy. Lori probably wants something a little bit fancier than these doors here, so I'm going to go into the door selector. We're going to find something with all kinds of moldings and craziness on it. So let's get, I think there's something even more deep. Let's try this one. So we can insert this in, and I can say I want that door here, and here, and here, and here, and here, and yeah, maybe up there too. We'll make it the, so you can, what just happened there is you have this model saved on, I have it saved on my computer. And when I clicked this new door, it actually deleted the door that's on there, went to the internet, downloaded a new door, and put it on the cabinet almost instantly like that, which allows us to have this entire catalog of doors stored in the cloud instead of on your computer. So whenever we add a new door, it's available for everybody to use. And what we do is, if you're going through here, and we've got all kind of the standard doors and things that, flat panels, raised panels, arch, glass doors, shaker doors, all those type of things. And if there's one in here that you need that's not in here, you can, if you're a customer of the plugin, you can email us a picture or a scan of the door, and we'll load it in there for you. So that's
Now, how long would this take somebody if they didn't have the plugin?
One cabinet, so I'm pretty quick at SketchUp. I could draw, so like this door with this raised panel detail here, like with the beading and everything. I could draw this sink base probably in 15 to 30 minutes, and I'd have to do that for each cabinet. So you're talking, I mean, this is a pretty significant time savings.
Huge.
Yeah, it's huge, because a lot of like 2020 and the other programs, they're all drag and drop too, and that's what makes them so fast. But the one thing that they don't have is the flexibility of being able, like in SketchUp, to be able to drag and drop stuff and to be able to draw anything that you want. So right. Let's do, all right, I'm gonna throw, what can we do here? Let's do something a little bit different. Let's make a tiled floor. So this is what's kind of fun. So we're going to go on the internet, and I'm going to do a Google image search for tile, and we're going to find, let's see, let's find a fun tile here. Maybe this one here. Let's see how this works. Oops. I lied to you. Let's find, this is a good one here. Okay, so let's say you wanted to use this tile in your SketchUp model. You can just save it on your computer, and I'll just put it right on the desktop, and we'll make this a JPG. And what I'm going to do is go into SketchUp and say New Texture, and I'm going to find that image that we just downloaded, and there's our tile, and I'm going to bring that into SketchUp, And so now I have a texture that's this tile. So I can go into this, whoops, I can go into this floor. Come on, that's what I wanted. And I can put that tile right on this floor,
Wow.
like
That's
automatically off the internet. Now, I picked, well, all right, let me show you a couple other things. So you can just bring it in off the internet and just put it in, and I lucked out. This worked really, really well, like right off the bat. Let's say that this tile came in, you know, it's not the right size or the alignment wasn't right. You can fix a lot of that stuff. So you can take a texture and you can move it around. So if you want to get the tiles aligned in a certain way, you can do that. You can also take them and, you know, if you wanted these on like a 45 or you wanted to make them bigger or smaller,
Oh, wow.
you can do that really easily. I'm just kind of winging it here, but you can be very specific in the size that you want. So let's say this group of tiles, so we've got a 5x5 picture here. Let's say that those tiles were all 6-inch tiles. Well, that would be 30 by 30. So you could say that this group was 30 inches by 30 inches, and it will actually show those the proper size. So, Laura, you're pretty good. You're pretty good at Photoshop, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's say you found an image of a tile, and we'll just keep using this one. So let's say it like wasn't quite what you wanted. You know, that it had some lens flare, or the image was bent a little bit, or shot at an angle, and you weren't able to fix it with the tools in SketchUp. Well, what you can do is you can go into, and I'll just do it in this tile texture, you can click the Edit Texture button, and if you have Photoshop or another photo editing program,
Oh, wow.
it'll bring it up in there. So I'll do something like a little ridiculous to this one. We'll just do, here, there we go. So just to illustrate the point, you can go in here and let's say I erased part of this tile, and you can save it in Photoshop, and then when you go back over to SketchUp, that change you made automatically transfers over from Photoshop. So I'm no good at Photoshop, but
Yeah, I know what you mean, though. That's great.
yeah, like if you're actually, you know, and I can like crop stuff and do certain things, but you can touch things up, you could change the color of it. You know, this is probably not going to work. Yeah, this is not a
There
photo.
are so many tile companies out there now too that are doing printed tiles. So, you know, sometimes you can actually have full images. Like for instance, like for a backsplash, you could have full images. You could edit that image out. That would be really cool.
I wonder if we could do. Do you have a? Let's find one of your.
We do have a question from Gloria. She said she just heard you can use symbols from Google 3D Warehouse and Chief Architect 2. Are SketchUp and Chief Architect compatible?
You can, yes. I have not personally used the one in. I'm sorry. What were the two programs she said? Chief Architect and
SketchUp. Oh, so from the Google's 3D Warehouse.
Yeah, you can pull those in. I know you can do it from Chief. I haven't done it in the other.
You can click on any of those images, and the other image gets bigger. So.
Yeah, here we go. Okay, so I'm going to steal one of your images, and this is going to be a crazy kitchen. So we're going to go in here, and we're going to say New Texture, and we're going to put this one in.
Those are customized walls, by the way.
Yes. I figured we should use some brand appropriate. So check it out.
Whoa, fancy!
Cha-ching. Now, do you think, is that sample? Well, you actually had the scale. Let's make it right. So this is what is this?
That's 16 inches. Well, we do everything on a 24-inch scale, so that would actually probably be closer to like 18 inches. Honestly.
Okay, 18 by 18?
Yep.
Okay, so to make sure, so if we actually, like I just threw this in here, but if we actually want to make sure that this is right, we can go into the size here, and so this is 18 inches by 18 inches, you said. So we go in here. So now this wallpaper is actually the right scale. It probably repeats a little more randomly.
Right.
I would think, but you can get an idea of how big the splotches, is that the right word?
Yeah.
The dots?
Yeah.
The splotches, whatever those are. So yeah, you could actually see what your customized wallpaper would look like in your kitchen.
Fabulous. Love it.
Just in full disclosure, I design what I think are decent looking kitchens, and whenever I give demos, I always end up designing the most horrific looking kitchens because I'll pick crazy colors just to illustrate points. So
Yeah.
So yeah, Lori, I'm sure you have much better taste.
This is awesome, though. I mean, I'm sure that people are learning a tremendous amount. And Becky Schenkel's here. She says she's a long-time beta user, tester of your product.
Yeah,
Hi, Eric.
I've been using it for a while. How's it going, Becky? So
she also likes that Google Sketch, well, not Google SketchUp. SketchUp is less expensive than 2020 or some of the other products.
She does or does not?
She does. She likes less expensive. I mean, its price can be, tricky with software.
Well, the thing that's kind of different about SketchUp is that it's cheaper, but it doesn't do everything that some of the other ones do because it's like buying a blank smartphone. You put apps into it, so like you can put My Kitchen app into it, you can put a rendering app into it. In fact, speaking of putting apps into it, there is a new app that just came out this morning at 9 a.m. and I've been playing with it, and this one's kind of fun. So I get a lot of questions about rendering in SketchUp, and there are all kinds of rendering programs that range from $20 to $10,000, like literally $10,000. And this one is $20, and it's brand new, and I think it's probably worth showing. I'm gonna actually, I think, show you on a different model that's a little bit more done. So I'm going to jump to a different model here. Maybe. I'm going to jump to a different model. We'll go to this one here. Okay. So this is a little bit more of a finished model, so the renderer will work better. So if I wanted to show a detail of this model here, like maybe this peg and wedge thing that's down in the bottom corner, you can use this thing called Visualizer, and it's at getvisualizer.com. And the way this thing works is like your smartphone camera. So you're about to learn everything that you need to know about rendering with this program right now. So most renderers will do kind of a photorealistic rendering where everything is in focus. And they usually, what happens when you start rendering with them is they'll say, okay, you need to set up your lights and the reflectivity of the materials and kind of do all of this nerdy stuff, and then they take a few hours to render it. And that's true of most of them, not all of them. This one's a little different. Like when you take out your smartphone and you take a picture, you don't think of the lighting levels or the amount of exposure. You just kind of take out your phone and you take the picture, and that's sort of the end of it. And this renderer is kind of the same way. So what you do is you turn SketchUp to the view that you want, and then you open a visualizer, which is kind of like your smartphone camera, and it just starts working. And it usually only takes a couple minutes for each render. And there's not really an end time. It just is done whenever you feel like it's done. And when you're satisfied with it, you can leave it sit for 2 minutes or 20 minutes, but whenever you're satisfied with it, you just hit the camera button, and it saves a picture. It's done. The coolest thing about this one, though, is, Laura, you're a little bit photography nerdy, right?
Yeah.
So this has an aperture setting on it. So if you ever see like a really cool picture where they do that like pull focus trick, where the subject of your photo is in focus and then like the background is blurred out. This is the first ever render I've seen to have that trick in it. So as I run the slider up here, watch what happens to the background of this. It'll gives it a nice like Gaussian blur.
I love
so
that.
You can really have. I love that. It's really cool, and like you can do this like post process, but this is the first one I've ever seen that does it like instantaneously like this, and it's actually 3D. So if I take the focus ring here and I focus on the back, it'll blur the front and it'll pull the focus in the back, just like you were spinning the focus ring on a camera.
That's awesome.
So it's really, really cool. It's really cool. I've only been playing with it for a couple of days. They gave it to me a few days ahead of schedule to try out, but I've produced some really, really cool looking things. And I was actually just teaching SketchUp to a lady this morning, and she was looking for a render, and she honestly, she was trying to hire me to do some rendering for her, which I'm more than happy to do most of the time. And not to get into all the boring details, but she had a pretty simple thing that she needed to show. It was kind of like this. And, I said, go try this thing out because you can produce, she needed to produce like 15 renderings of the same wall, but with a different material each time. And I said, well, it's going to take me about an hour to 2 hours maybe per rendering. Whereas if you get this thing, you can probably do it yourself in 5 minutes and just keep switching out the materials. So I'm going to wait to hear back from her to see how she got on with it. But so far I've been having a great time with this.
Now, do you have some captures that you've taken that have been really great?
Honestly, I've only been playing around with it for a couple days. So I've been playing around with this model, and I'm still working on some interiors. And what I've found, and this is actually a cool, this is a rendering tip. So most of the models I've been working on recently are pretty like they're works in progress. And usually when I do a kitchen, something like this, I won't render it until it's done, until we've gone over all the design changes and things like that. And so one of the best rendering tips I can get. So the reason why I didn't render this one is because it's not done. And what you'll see, you kind of go in here, and we don't even have a sink or a faucet or anything on here, but it doesn't look right, and it's because it's missing stuff. There's no window frame, there's no faucet, there's no sink, the hardware doesn't have a color on it, and it doesn't matter. You could have the greatest rendering program in the world, and you really have to stage your renderings, like putting cups and plates and forks down, or a place setting, or something like that can take a rendering from looking kind of ho-hum to to really good. So if you on my website, I have some finished renders, and the best ones I think are the ones that are staged. So my advice to anyone who wants to render anything in SketchUp is go into the 3D warehouse and actually start staging out your model like you would be walking into it with your camera and taking a picture, because it's not going to look good unless it actually has some entourage in it, for lack of a better word.
Right. We have a couple more questions. Rose Dossal. Hi, Rose. She says, is SketchUp compatible with Revit?
I haven't used Revit in years. The last time I used it, SketchUp really wasn't on the radar, so I honestly don't know. I believe you can import geometry in there. I just haven't done it myself.
And then she asks again, if it is cloud-based, do you lose ownership of blocks or families when you use the different components you use for your design?
I get that question all the time, and you do not. So there is just to explain that, let me just lock this so it renders here. All of the stuff that you bring in, so like in this case we brought in all of these cabinets, so you get a like a 3-day free trial, and you get access to all the components. And then if you like it and you want to continue paying for it, is a subscription. And while paying that subscription, you get full access to download all of the components as much as you want, as many times a day as you want to do it. Once you get the components into your SketchUp model, they are yours and they're saved on your computer. So if you don't have a subscription anymore, your models will continue to work. And you can even take ones that are in here and copy and paste them. If you need to rework or resize, you just won't be able to download new models. That's all.
Okay.
So yes, we don't hold any of your actual designs are saved on your computer just like they normally do. We don't hold any of those, and you own them.
That's awesome. And then Becky also comments, "What a great plugin! That's GetVisual.com and was $20. Really?
$20. Yeah.
$20.
$20. And it's brand new, and honestly, I don't work for those guys or anything. They just gave it to me a couple days early to mess around with, and I've seen a fair amount of like beta software go, and there have not been any show-stopping bugs or crashes. It really has worked really well, and I actually got to meet the guys that made this thing when I was at the SketchUp conference in Colorado, and they're really cool. This isn't if you want a $5,000 rendering program, this is not going to be a replacement for that. But it's just like you have already all learned how to use it. You just download it and you just take a picture. I mean, that's really all there is to it. It's
now,
pretty.
the longer you sit
The
there,
brilliance is in.
bring in more information. Is that how it works, really?
Yeah, and there's no. It's never done. The longer it sits there, the clearer it gets. And I found that interior ones take a fair bit longer than exterior ones, or if you just have like a piece of furniture. But I think the longest one I ever ran was like 20 minutes. So it doesn't take, it really doesn't take that much time to do it. Yeah, it works pretty slick. I've been very happy with it so far. So any other questions?
Not yet. No, that's it.
What else do you want to see?
Well, we love the SketchUp. We love the plugin. That's stuff that we, totally have supported since day one, because I just love that. I love anything that saves designers time. You know that. So next, I kind of want to talk about the future stuff that you're doing with your WikiHouse, because I just think it's such, forward think. I always think you're on the cutting edge of tech, but tell us about it, because I think it's something that will eventually be on the radar of most designers.
Yeah, so it's the easiest way to explain this. All right, let me go to, I have a SketchUp model here, so let's start with this. So, okay, so and if you have like show notes or something or a chat, there's a website you can go check out. It's called wikihouse.cc. And CC stands for Creative Commons, and this guy, this consortium, this guy named Alistair Parvin came up with this idea for a CNC-made plywood house. And the idea is the entire house is made out of plywood, and it fits together with almost no metal fasteners at all. It's all peg and wedge construction, so we can take a look at one of them here. This is a design that I've been working on. And so everything fits together. These beams come together and they get wedged in. This is actually really this is a lot like a post and beam house. So if you've ever seen an old post and beam where one beam slots into another and they hammer in a big wooden peg into it, that's what this is, except the big difference here is instead of doing it with old tree logs that are cut down into squares, this is done with off-the-shelf plywood. And what's really interesting about this is that this is a repeatable design. So if you took a post and beam house and you gave the plans to somebody else, it really depends on if they have the same kind of logs and they build things the same way. It's a little bit hard to repeat. The machines that cut 4x8 sheets of plywood are everywhere in the world, and it's actually kind of old technology. It's not. They've been around and in production for 30, 40 years. If you've ordered cabinets or anything from IKEA, in any time in your life, it's probably been made on a CNC machine. And what's really interesting about this project is it's the first time that I know of that someone has attempted to make a house out of nothing but plywood. And it's also completely open sourced. So the story of how I got into this is the SketchUp team came across this project and thought, wow, this is really cool. And it's incidentally, the whole thing has been designed in SketchUp from day one. And so they decided at Maker Faire last year that they wanted to build one. So I got to go out with them. We built one. We used 160 sheets of plywood, and there's actually a great video of this on my website under the WikiHouse project. You can see us building it. But 6 or 7 of us showed up. We put together 1,150 parts of a big puzzle that we had never done before. We had only seen the SketchUp model, and we did it in a day and a half.
Wow.
And it was awesome. I mean, and the guys that were putting together, and I'm not making this up, had never done anything like this before and had little to no construction experience at all. These weren't like insanely, well-traveled carpenters or anything. We were really all novices at this, and we put it up. And now that we've done it, we could do it in half a day. And we put together a much bigger structure than this one you see on the screen here. But the coolest thing about this project is that it's all open source. So I decided that I wanted to make my own structure, so I just went on wikihouse.cc, downloaded some of the plans, and I remixed it into my own thing. And what's really cool is because it's open sourced, I remixed their design, and they liked some of the changes that I did. So some of my changes are now on the newer version of WikiHouse that's just come out, which is cool.
Open source.
Yeah, it's like, it's
cool.
totally cool. It's like we're all just sharing ideas and having a good time with it. And, yeah, so what I've decided, I eventually, and you'll see on the website, there's a whole blog and kind of a history of the project, but I am going to eventually attempt to build a house like this. And not to get into all of the nuances of permitting and the legalities of building structures, you have to get engineering certification, at least in the state of Massachusetts, to be able to really legally build some of these structures. So what's kind of tough is you can't get something engineering certified of this nature unless you actually have one, and you can't actually build a house until you get the engineering certification. So there's a couple of ways around it. You could just be filthy rich and just build one inside of your massive airplane hangar that you own and have some engineers come by and look at it. Or what I did is I designed this shed, and you don't need any permits to build a shed. And what I did is I used all of the same joinery that you'd actually use in a house. So as far as sheds go, this is ridiculously overbuilt. But I can legally build it, and I can get the joinery engineering certified, and we can kind of scale that up into a house. And I'm oversimplifying it, but that's the idea. But just to kind of take you through how this model works. So when it's done, it's going to look like this. It's going to be a shed. It's going to have a door in it. We'll probably have a mischievous cat jumping in and out of it, and this is going to be like a little tool shed that you can, either have us come put together for you, or you can buy it and we'll put it in a crate and send it to you. But it works with let's see, we'll go back to the skeleton here. So this looks super complex, but this is actually only 3 parts. So it's got it's just 3 modules like this. So you build 3 of exactly the same things, and the parts only fit together one way. So when you pull them all out of the crate, they're all numbered, and they start in the bottom left corner. You have number 1, and then you go to number 2, which is it goes the other way. So number 1, number 2, and number 3. 3 is on the back side, and 4, and so on. And you just lay them all out on the ground. You peg them all together. So you peg up one of these fins like this. Then you put a whole set of these connectors on it, and all of the fins are exactly the same. So once you make one fin, you just repeat that 6 times, connect them all together, connect all the modules together with these little secondary connectors that go in between that just kind of keep everything from falling over. And then once you do that, you just snap these pieces on the end to make up a wall. So what's cool here is you have 3 modules that are identical, and it doesn't matter where you put them. So there's not a middle module or an end module. You can stick them wherever you want, and then once you have 3 stuck together, you just stick your end wall, or in this case the wall with the door. And then after that, you sheathe it with plywood. And all the plywood has all these little holes in it let me just switch this to a face style that you can see a little better, like that. So there's a hole in every sheet of plywood, so it locks in. So what you end up getting is this super, super strong structure that can support all of its own weight and then some. I mean, you could park cars in here, you could throw a party, you could have a customized walls party inside there, and everybody dancing to the same beat, it wouldn't fall over. Yeah, it ends up being a really, really super strong structure. And the cool thing is you design this all on the computer. So I literally designed this whole thing right here in SketchUp. I was able to solve all of the assembly problems right here. And when it's done, let me see. Lori, can you still see are you seeing Windows on my screen? Or are you still seeing SketchUp?
I'm still seeing well, it says, no, I'm seeing this other program.
Okay, so good. I'm switching over to Windows here. So what happens here is you design this whole thing in SketchUp like this, and then you save it out. And this company called Vectric, they're in Birmingham, UK. They took to cut all of these parts out on a piece of machinery, you need to lay every single part out onto a sheet of plywood like this, and you need to pack them all together so you make good use of your plywood, or else you're going to waste a ton of wood.
Right.
And so to do this, we had to take each and every single piece, all 1,150 parts, and manually lay them out on sheets of plywood. And it literally took 4 times as long to do that than it actually did to design the whole thing. It was a real problem. So these guys, since we built the first one, these guys over at Vectric came up with this script for us that will actually take your entire SketchUp model in one piece as you draw it and lay it out on all of your sheets of plywood just like this. So this was a test one I did yesterday, and this took about 5 minutes for the computer to process all this and lay it out.
That's awesome.
It's amazing. Like, it saves, I can't even count the amount of hours this saves. It's really, really incredible.
So what's the final cost? Like, you've got this. What is that? What do you think that this will cost if you had a structure like that?
Well, so this one here, we're thinking that we could build this shed here, all trimmed out and everything, for around $3,000 or a little less, which puts it in line. This is about an 8x11 shed, so some of the real kind of chintzy ones that you'd pick up at Home Depot that are made out of wood. Yeah. It's about the same price as one of those. This is, again, it's ridiculously overbuilt, so I think we could probably do it cheaper if we reduce some of the framing that's in it, but the whole point is to test out a house.
Yeah, so, yeah, absolutely. Plus, it's amazingly strong, too, so it's...
Yeah, and like, sheds have, they can build sheds. My garage at the house I grew up in the house, the studs are 16 inches on center, and in the garage they're 24 inches on center. I'm not sure if that's still building code, but back then that was okay because there's just less weight in a garage. And like, this one is built, I don't have the engineering data right next to me here, but the way that this carries weight, it's like if the studs were even closer than 16 inches. So this is like seriously over strong for the use of a shed. But that, again, we're just trying to test out home building techniques, so it's a good.
And the bigger scale, the big idea, obviously, is that this is a cost-effective way to build housing, and could be something that would be used all over the world to build houses in a cheap way, right?
Yeah. So
themselves.
The real big idea here is that to build a structure, you need a designer. I'm oversimplifying it, but you basically need design, you need engineering, and you need manufacturing or building, right? And those are all 3 different things, and they're all accomplished by 3 different entities. So the goal of this thing is, besides being like an open source project, is to try to solve all 3 of those things in one spot. So if you go on WikiHouse, they'll give you downloads of these pre-made modules. And some of them are they're pre-designed, obviously, because they exist in 3D, and they're engineered. So an engineer on some of those has gone in and said, this works. It's not going to fall over. It's going to carry rain and wind and all that type of stuff. And in the same breath, they've also taken care of manufacturing, because you have a module that's been designed, it's been engineering tested, and it's been set up for manufacture. So the idea is that, like, you, Lori, could go in and stick some pieces together in SketchUp really easy, and then go make the structure that you want by going to somebody with a machine. And they don't have to deal with setting up the cutting files or figuring out how it's going to go together. It's all done. You just bring it, you just email them the file, and they make it.
Right, and as more people join in the open source, you get more, I'm sure, more late in as building these wiki houses get a building approved in different states, and all of that. You actually could probably pick from different floor plans and layouts and.
Yep, you'll get more variety, and they're kind of working on building out a database. I think in the future we'll see. You can kind of do like a filtered search. Show me bungalows that are approved for building in Vermont. And it'll parse it all down and show you a list of things like that.
That's amazing.
So yeah, so that's WikiHouse in a nutshell.
We love it. We love technology.
Yeah, it's fun.
I'm not going to talk about it briefly because we only have a few more minutes left, but you're also really into 3D printing, and that's something that I'm just so fascinated by. But it's, again, another old technology, really, because I'm in the printing world, so printers have gotten better and better. The quality and the inkjet heads have gotten better and the dots have gotten smaller, so that's why you can print a photograph on your desktop printer. But the 3D technology actually uses really outdated technology.
It is really outdated.
They're bigger.
It's cool, like especially with the, like 3D printers is a great example. So you take like a MakerBot, right?
Yeah.
And the MakerBot prints. I have one. It's awesome. But it's slow. It's fidgety. And it's amazing. Let me be clear. It is absolutely amazing, but it is not ready for prime time. And what's really cool about like building this wooden furniture I got on the screen here and building the wiki house is you're using something just like your printers that are old, but they've been around for so long. So like these woodcutter things that we use to cut the wiki house things, they're these big heavy-duty industrial machines, and they fly through wood. They're super reliable. I mean, they're industrial factory-ready machines that are in use today. So like once you get all of the digital stuff figured out, you don't have to worry about, is it going to cut? Is the machine going to break? Is this some kind of unproven thing? Like, it works.
Yeah.
Really, really well.
And look, I mean, you're showing us some furniture too, which is amazing.
So this was, I maybe if we only have a minute or two left, this might be a good one to end on. So like WikiHouse, as cool as it is, right now today, it's a little bit pie in the sky, in that like, it takes real nerdy people to get it to happen, but it's coming. We're working very hard on making it mainstream. This OpenDesk project is actually by the same group of guys that did WikiHouse, and this is actually a really cool project. So this is all open sourced, mostly CNC designed furniture, and they've got some really, really good looking stuff in here. And what's really cool about this is that you can do this on most of these designs on any end of the spectrum. So like I've gone in here and I've actually downloaded the digital cutting files. I've made a few of these in my garage with my little CNC machine. On the flip side, like Lori, if you wanted one of these designs, you can go on and you can just order it and they'll put it in a box and send it to you, and you can just bang it together at your house. You can just use a little a rubber mallet, just tap them together. Or you could download the digital design and they will set you up with somebody who's local to you that will make it for you. And they can do finishing, they can tweak the dimensions and change the sizes of it and stuff. And most of it is all CNC cut furniture. So you can, like, especially if you're an interior designer, you can spec stuff like this, but you can get it tweaked and changed without really needing to know SketchUp or how to build the stuff.
Right.
Which is really cool. So it's like open source design for anybody at any skill level, which is pretty cool.
That is so amazing. That's a great thing about open source, is sharing, that ability to do local.
Yeah. Like these little stools, I made these for my nephews the other day. Let me see if I can find these real quick here. I actually have these posted on G+ somewhere, but I think I've got them. Oh, these are the unfinished versions, but yeah, that's in my. They're just roughly assembled here. I haven't in this shot. I hadn't stained them, but I downloaded those digital files of those two little stools there, and I made them out of some scrap plywood in the shop.
That's awesome.
In 20-degree weather, might I add. It was very cold that day.
Oh no, you must love your nephews.
Yeah, they're cool, and they needed something to sit on while they ate, so they each have a little stool now.
Aw, so cute. And he's single, ladies.
Oh yeah, the perpetual matchmaker, Lori.
That's right.
Nice.
That's why you need me.
Cool. Was there anything else?
No, that's it. Thank you very much for showing us and walking us through SketchUp. I really think this is a program that everybody should pay attention to. I actually have your website also in the description, so head on over to Eric's site, check it out. I definitely think that his plugin is worth the subscription, and I definitely encourage you to pick that up and communicate with him, because you also do private tutorials also, right?
Yeah, I do. I'll teach SketchUp to groups or people, which do it one-on-one on the internet. In fact, speaking of the plugin, if anybody wants to try it, email me on my website or just hit me on Twitter, and I will send you a coupon code I was supposed to have made one, and I didn't. So just ask me, and I will hook you guys up with some extra free time on it, so you can play around with it. And it's non-committal. It'll just extend your free trial. You don't have to give me your credit card number or anything like that. You can just play for a little while. So hit me up on the internet somehow, and I will hook you up with a coupon code.
And you're at SketchThis.
I'm at SketchThis, yeah. So the website is sketchthis.net, and maybe I can put that on my lower third. I need a publicist. I need a PR person, Lori.
I know.
Do all my lower thirds and things for me.
You actually, before you go, Becky wants you to put the website addresses for the furniture site and the visual plugin for her because she wants to be able to click over and purchase.
Where can I put those, or should I just say
right in the event? I'll show you that after.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah,
well,
we'll get all that stuff in there for you.
Make sure that you visit us on interiordesignCommunity.com and Interior Design Community on Google+. Thanks, everyone. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.